So, Greg, you were in your office here at your home in Kent when you took a Zoom call to be asked to step down.
Yeah, I got on a Zoom and they said, look, there's been a number of complaints. We'd like you to step away while we have an investigation. And I thought, okay, well, what's anyone going to find? And went into the kitchen, my mother-in-law and my wife, and I said, I think we've got a real problem here. But it's going to be okay because they're just investigating. They're going to investigate some complaints, but must be okay. I mean, I've heard of some complaints, but I know they're not true, so it's going to be okay. And then everything just changed. As soon as that became public knowledge, complaints just came in from everywhere on all sorts of shows and parts of my life that I just didn't expect. I mean, just an extraordinary amount of I mean, just non-stop. Some I recognised, some I didn't recognise at all. Obviously, a lot of them I've got a very different perspective on, but I mean, just a huge amount. There were complaints coming in that I'd touched people in the studio, and I thought that's not right. That's not right. And over the next couple of weeks, I made 8 phone calls to lots of people at MasterChef and said, "Help me, please help me. Do you ever remember me ever touching anybody at work?" And every single one went, "No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, of course you didn't." And I thought, well, how do I explain? I've got no recollection of it. People at work are telling me they've got no recollection of it ever happening. I know that's not me. So how do I explain this? In 2018, I had a proper official investigation and a complaint into my behaviour at another production, not MasterChef. I was found guilty of being inappropriate, but actually what I did was told someone and they were clever and attractive. But I can see now that's a personal remark. She was a runner and we worked together for 3 days. I showed her pictures of Anna, my children, the dogs. We discussed where her mum and dad had met, what she'd done at university. On the final day, I said to her, "Really enjoyed working with you. I think you're brilliantly clever, strikingly attractive. You're going to do really well." I had no intention of seeing this girl.
You were with Anna at this
Oh
stage.
yeah, I've been with Anna for 13 years. This is 2018, and the girl complained. Other people complained as well about the jokes that I'd said, and the BBC suggested I go on a course to learn how to communicate with younger people. What came out in the investigation was that I felt myself to be on the same level as them, but they didn't perceive me as such, so that I should change my behaviour. It was at that point in 2018 that I realised that I didn't have to do a great deal wrong to get into a lot of trouble. My behaviour has completely and utterly changed from 2018. And that's why there are no complaints in this big investigation after 2018. It changed me completely. And I never got into trouble again. But the way I did it was to become a social recluse. I refused to do anything social at work, wouldn't go to the pub with anybody, to the point where when we went on location, everybody else would go out for dinner and I would stay in my hotel room. I wouldn't socialise. I stopped any social conversations with younger people that I didn't know very well. There's some really good young people at work and they'd say, "Right, Craig, we're all going for a drink. Are you going to come?" I said, no, I won't come." They said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, you guys, if you want to know, you guys make me nervous. The sensibilities of a 60-year-old man are different to 25-year-olds. And you live in a complaint culture that never existed when I would. If I go out with you and I drink and I offer an opinion, whether that be political or social, I'm scared that you're going to complain about it." And then, "Greg, but it's us." It's like, "Yeah, I know. You scare me. You all scare me." And the anxiety levels were just extraordinary. I was then planning what the next stage of my life was going to be like, whether I actually wanted to go back on television, even if I'd had the chance, because I was suffering such anxiety. I'd planned to come out anyway. Not as I did. I had no idea what was going to hit me. No idea. As soon as the announcement that I was stepping back due to an investigation became public, my whole world collapsed. I think I was in the newspapers for 4 or 5 weeks. And all the abuse that comes with it on social media as well. The anguish is just extraordinary. Basically, you're watching yourself getting personally ripped apart, criticised, attacked, accused of all sorts of stuff over and over and over again. Nobody from BBC contacted me at all as these headlines started to hit. Absolutely nobody at all. I felt very, very alone. I didn't sleep for 4 days, constantly reading updated headlines, constantly reading abuse online. The feeling of being under attack and the feeling of isolation and the feeling of abandonment was overwhelming, and desperately trying to work out what I was going to do to come out from under it. I can't explain what my mental condition is, what your mental state is at that point. You would really have to go through it to understand it. That level of attack, I found it completely overwhelming, completely overwhelming. I did consider a number of times ending it. I wondered whether it would be better for Anna and little Sid if I wasn't here. Would they be financially okay? Was I insured? I don't think I've discussed this with Anna actually. Was I insured? Would all of this stress leave them if I wasn't here? And then I realised how not just upset but responsible Anna would feel. And that stopped me. That got me. I'm not saying I would have done it, but yes, I considered it. Let me try and explain how you feel physically. Pain in your chest, shortage of breath, thoughts circulating in your mind that you can't straighten out and you can't get rid of, a burning desire to do something, just to do so. What can you do? What will stop this attack? What can you do to somehow pull yourself out of it? Because you just feel like you're on the floor being kicked and your limbs stop working. They will only work slowly. In the end, you can only take small steps. There are points where you just collapse into a chair and you just stare at a fixed point.
Then on December 1st, so 4 days after the story broke, you woke up in the morning, early in the morning on your own, and you made a post about middle-class women of a certain age.
That middle-class women of a certain age was such a stupid thing to do. And actually, I can't explain why I make decisions like that. There were a number of women that really, really surprised me, actually really knocked me back. Kirsty Walk, Kirsty Allsop, and Vanessa Phelps. Kirsty Allsop, I don't even really know. I think I met her once at the Ideal Home show, and she had a story to tell that I just found extraordinary. Vanessa Phelps had a story from a friend of hers in a lift, and I've always got on well with Vanessa Phelps. We even swap messages on social media. And Kirsty Walk, we worked together 13 years ago. She made it to the final 3. I worked with her for 3 months. I thought that we got on really, really well. I can clearly remember at the end of the show drinking champagne with her and sharing jokes with her.
With other people as well, then?
Yeah.
In a group?
Yeah, a group of people. And so that just absolutely knocked me for 6. I don't know whether this is typical of all the complaints that have come up. There's one lady that said Gregg Wallace made her feel very uncomfortable, that I asked her questions that were far too personal and that I shared intimate details of my life. And this is another one of the ones that you can see the rushes, the uncut film. I had 2 personal interactions with her. One is I asked her where she lived, and I said, "Oh, my daughter lives there. I really like it there." The second one is her chicken was uncooked, and she was clearly upset. And I said, "Don't worry, it's just a mistake. We all make mistakes. In fact, John and I have got 7 marriages between us." That's the sum total of the personal interaction. Yet she perceives it as me oversharing, me asking her personal details, me giving her intimate details of my life. I think she was invited to come and watch the film. and I think she declined. There's quite a few complaints that I was showing inappropriate pictures of my girlfriend at the time on my phone before we even had cameras on our phone. They're just impossible. Me going rogue and going wild like that on that Sunday morning obviously terrified a lot of people. And I got a phone call from one of the execs of production company who said, like, what are you doing? I said, well, what am I supposed to do? You're the first person I've spoken to in days. And he said, would you like some help? And I went, yes. He said, some mental help? Yes. I said, whoever you've got, just send them along, please. Yes, I really, really want some help. And a crisis lady turned up on the phone and started talking to me, started chatting to me. And I suggested to her that I was going to pour myself a large whiskey. And she said, do it. And she carried on chatting to me and chatting me through this, and then said, I'm going to help you, but I want you to make me a promise that you won't do any more posting. Sorry. I was like, she was the first one to come along, really, and hold my hand or put her arm around me. I hadn't even met her yet. Also, because of her, she insisted that I have some mental health screening, and I've got a diagnosis of autism. I had a screening with an autism doctor online, and I was really quite flippant about it. And she said, there's enough green lights here. We'd like you to come down and we'd like to properly sit and chat with you. And so I went down into central London, and there were 2 doctors there and gave me a number of tests. They gave me some, what I consider to be toys to look at. They asked me to tell a story from a picture book. I said to them, is this for children? They went, no, not at all. No, this is an adult test. What's really clever is they break and chat to you, but they're still testing you. They're still testing you. You just don't know. I spent 90 minutes with a psychiatrist in Harley Street, and then they got on a Zoom here and they said, you are. I said, am I autistic? They went, yes, very, 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 very. You are very on the spectrum. Which I actually embraced. I'm still learning. I've got a lot to learn. I want to make it absolutely clear, I'm not blaming my behaviour on my diagnosis, but it does explain a hell of a lot. My social filters aren't the same as other people's. I also won't be able to read emotions as well as other people. And I also don't know how to respond to those emotions properly. Lots of people that have known me for a long time, that are friends and family, say, well, I'm not surprised. They said to me, you did an article in the Daily Telegraph about your perfect Saturday, and it went viral and everyone attacked you. They said, we saw that 18 months ago, and that's an obvious autistic man desperately trying to get order into his day. Hour playing with Sid in the garden, 2 hours playing on the computer, hour for coffee with Anna, hour and a half to meet my PA for breakfast, and everybody laughed at me. And I didn't know at the time, but that's me getting that structure into my life, and I've always done that. Because I knew that Anna likes hugs randomly, I diarise it. And I know that's going to sound really strange to a lot of people. These doctors who diagnosed me, they said to me, because obviously they knew who I was, they said, are you going to go public with this? And I went, well, I haven't made a decision yet, but at some stage I think so, yes. They said, right, we need to arm you with some things here to tell people, because in our experience, people are skeptical. They said, in our experience, nobody your age, rarely gets diagnosed until they're in trouble at work. My mum told them that I used to line all my toys up as a kid, wouldn't necessarily play with them, just line them all up, and that I struggled to make friends, and that she would have to cut all the labels out of my clothes because it's a sensory thing, And Anna does the same thing for me now. If I go downstairs with a new t-shirt on, and Anna just gets the scissors and cuts the label. It's a sensory thing.
We've spoken over the last few days about the toll of the last 5 months and how difficult they've been. But on February the 17th, you had an early morning phone call.
My mum had a heart attack early hours of the morning. I remember the phone going off, and I didn't check it. And then I was up early, 4 or 5 o'clock, and got a text from Bob, her husband, to say your mum's passed away. And this is the first time it's ever happened to me. It actually knocked me off my feet. I actually collapsed onto the sofa. Yeah, my mum had me when she was 20. I'm 60. She is 80. We would talk regularly. She was always very, very proud of me. I'm her eldest boy, and obviously I was on the telly. I was famous. So I think it's very sad, and the timing that that in the last days of her life, of course, she's just reading about her boy in the paper, and loads of really horrible things, sad things, people complaining about him. It's not good. Not good. I mean, look, I worry. She had a heart attack. I do worry. Obviously, I hope I didn't bring pressure to bear on her. I really hope I didn't. I'm very fortunate that I have Anna. I'm blessed. I've eaten well. I've exercised. Didn't turn to the bottle. Obviously, there's been some low moments. Look, I must have upset a lot of people over those 20 years. I must have done. Look at the amount of complaints. But I can honestly say I was unaware at the time. And when I was told in 2018, I changed. I don't think you can ask any more of that, can you? If someone behaves in a certain way, you tell them not to, and then they don't. Isn't that enough? All of the complaints are coming in of a previous era before anybody had told me to change. That does seem at best ironic and at worst a little bit unfair. I'll ask anyone to think back 10, 15, 20 years. We were all very, very different. I think it's vitally important that we open conduits for people to complain. If they are being bullied, harassed, or uncomfortable, it's really, really important that they have channels open to them to complain. The system hasn't yet been perfected. It doesn't work particularly well if the person you're accusing is a public figure, because they get tried, I get tried in public before anybody's ever come to any sort of conclusion in an investigation. I don't know what the answer is yet. I really don't. But I know it's not right. I know it's not right. And looking at a lot of the accusations, I know they're not right as well. I'm not saying they all are wrong. That's not what I'm saying at all. I just know that some aren't right. You should be innocent until proven guilty. Because as soon as BBC or anyone else says, right, we're doing an investigation into this person's behaviour, floodgates open and the public decide for themselves there and then. This can't be right. The BBC sent me an email. They were coming down to talk to me, and they sent an email with a link to the Samaritans and a suicide helpline. 5 months after the story broke. I've had no contact with anyone at the BBC at all. None.